everyone, welcome back for another ASMR facts video about great empires. And for today I have chosen the Danish Norwegian Empire and their former colonies. And we're gonna start, of course, with some general facts. The Danish overseas colonies, or Dano-Norwegian colonies, because it was a union between these two countries, were the colonies that Denmark and Norway possessed from 1536 until 1953. At its peak, the colonies spanned on four continents. Europe, Africa, Americas, and Asia. Well, the period of colonial expansion marked the rise in the status of power of Danes and Norwegians in the Kalmar Union. Well, Danes and Norwegians during this time increasingly saw themselves as citizens of the same state fatherland, the realm of the Oldenburg monarchs. So, they were a union, Denmark and Norway. In the 17th century, Denmark and Norway began to develop forts with trading posts in West Africa, and colonies in the Caribbean and in the Indian subcontinent. The first colony that was established as Tranquebar. Tranquebar in India. Sorry, just a moment. This one here, Tranquebar in India. So this was the first colony. Of course, it was at the age where the spice war was, that's it, let's say, in full development between those big empires like French, Portuguese, Spanish, and also English one. But after 1814, when Norway was ceded to Sweden following the Napoleonic War, Denmark retained what remains of Norway great medieval holdings. So, now let's start first with Africa, and we're gonna talk about the colonies from Africa. Denmark maintained several trading stations and forts along the Gold Coast of Africa. The Christiansborg became the base for Danish power in the West Africa and the center for slave trade to the Danish West Indies. So, again, the same thing. They use slave trade across the Atlantic. In 1807, Denmark's African business partners were suppressed by Ashanti which led to the abandonment of all trading posts. Denmark sold its forts to United Kingdom, so sold to UK in 1850. Asia. Well, Denmark maintained a scattering of small colonies in Asia and trading posts through the Indian subcontinent from 17th to 19th century. After they were sold mostly to Britain. So here they had Trankebar from 1620 to 1845. Serampore, which is actually now Calcutta. It was from 1755 to 1845. And the Nicobar Islands from 1756 to 1848 and 1846. And after that, they sold to UK or Britain. Good. Now, let's talk about North America. Well, here we have some of the possession of Dano-Norwegian in the West Indies. Well, West Indies, which at that point in that years was a major area of conflict between the great empires, the Big Four. And in the North America, we're going to talk about the islands of Saint Thomas, which is this one. Here it's a little bit increased in terms of size because there is a very small and you cannot see it, notice on the map. So here it's some sort of zoom. So Saint Thomas was the first in 1671. In 1718, the following Sandcrux and Saint Jane, they were both from France. These islands were known as the Danish West Indies, and all of them, they were sold to United States in 1917 for a price of $25 million. $25 million. Good. And let's talk about Europe. In Europe, we have, or they have, the Iceland. As with Greenland and Faroe Islands, Norwegian claims to Iceland were inherited by the Denmark. Also, like those possessions, Iceland was retained by Denmark after the Treaty of Kiel. Well, after the Treaty of Kiel, the two states, Denmark and Norway, separated as a union, and Denmark claimed and retained also Iceland. During the Nazi Germany occupation of Denmark from 1940 to 1945, the Republic of Iceland was declared as a result of referendum. Now, the Faroe Islands. Well, Faroe Islands are right here, very small islands, a small archipelago. the Faroe Islands had become part of the Kingdom of Norway in 1035. After Norway was given to Sweden after Napoleonic Wars, Denmark retained the Faroe Islands as a condition of Treaty of Kiel. The Faroe Islands were incorporated into Denmark in 1851 with the implementation of Danish constitution. And one of the most important subject is Greenland. Greenland. Greenland was settled by immigrants from Iceland and Norway in the Viking area or Viking Age after the arrival of Eric the Red in 995. After Norway was ceded to the Queen of Sweden following the Napoleonic Wars, Denmark again made the same strategy of retaining the old territorial claims as a condition of Treaty of Kiel. Greenland and Faroe Islands were the last vestiges of the colonial empire. Greenland's colonial status ceased in 1953, and currently it's an integral part of Kingdom of Denmark. The Danish Empire was once significant colonial power with territories spread across various regions. Its legacy is marked by both positive and negative aspects, and its impact is particularly in certain areas. Let's talk about the positive legacy first. Well, Denmark-Norway's established a lasting cultural and political influence in Greenland and Faroe Islands. And both of them, Faroe Islands and Greenland, are in present integral parts of the kingdom. In former colonies like the Virgin Islands or Ghana, remnants of Danish colonial architecture still exists. Danish influence often both economic development and educational institution to its colonies. And now the negative legacy, of course, like all the empires, they have something in common: slave trade. Like other European colonies, powers, Denmark was involved in transatlantic slave trade. From Africa to the West Indies. And Denmark set upon some significant slave trade hubs. Colonial exploitation. The exploitation of natural resources, especially sugar in the West Indies, was a common practice during the colonial era. Cultural impositions. In some cases, the impositions of Danish culture and values on the indigenous people led to the erosion of the local traditions. In Greenland, concerns over environmental issues such as impact on the climate change and resource extractions are part of the contemporary legacy of the Danish rule. But the relation between Denmark and Greenland is continually evolving. And global citizenship. Denmark's colonial legacy contributes to its modern identity as a nation that values human rights, democracy, and global citizenship. The experience of its former colonies have shaped Denmark's approach to international relations. And these were the facts of the Danish Norwegian Empire. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video, like always. Until next time, I wish you all the best. Bye bye. Danish and so.